What's up, guys? I'm Reagan, and I'm back here with another podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard and the whole case with all of that stuff. The first thing that I want to say is that a lot of this is going to be opinionated, while other parts are factual. This goes in no specific order, so it's kind of just going to be, a little bit all over the place. Obviously, it's going to stay on topic, but it's not going to go in a specific type of order. I might bounce around a little bit with all the topics. I will not be explaining the story start to finish, and most of the things I'm going to be saying is just kind of like statements in between here and there. I think that it's best if you look into this first so that you can like understand, and get a sense of what I'm explaining and talking about. So the first thing that I would like to say is that Gypsy Rose was a victim of Munchausen by proxy, and this began at a very young age. Experts have said that Gypsy was a victim of Munchausen by proxy, a rare form of abuse which a guardian, in this case Dee Blanchard, exaggerates or induces illness in a child for attention or sympathy. So, from a very young age, Gypsy Blanchard was made out to be this very sick girl, which was not the case at all. From a very young age, Gypsy Rose seemingly suffered from a bunch of different illnesses, and she spent most of her life in a wheelchair. She was in and out of hospitals, and she took dozens of medications. I'll insert a picture of her medicine cabinet now. She took dozens of medications, but her illnesses were all fabricated by Dee. None of this was real. She didn't have any of these things. And she, abused her daughter physically, mentally, and emotionally until the day that Dee was killed. An example of this was that Dee made Gypsy Rose shave her head, which, I think that, Dee also said that that Gypsy Rose had leukemia, which was not true. And as a part of the abuse, Gypsy Rose was forced by Dee in a wheelchair. She told her that her hair wasn't going to grow right, it was going to fall out, which was not the case. Gypsy was able to grow hair, she had hair, she would always have hair. She was forced to shave her head to appear like she went through chemotherapy and was forced to take medications that made her lose her teeth and induce symptoms of medical illnesses. Dee told doctors that Gypsy Rose suffered from many, many things. The reason why Dee Blanchard got away with a lot of these things was because Munchausen by proxy is a very, intense, very intricate, thing. And, it almost makes her seem like it's not abuse, even though it really is, because she's taking on this role of this amazing caretaker, this amazing mother, when really it was far beyond that. When they arrived in Springfield, Missouri, claiming they fled the devastation of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans in 2005, the story provided a cover for Gypsy Rose's lack of medical records, which Dee said she had lost in the storm, which, this was the perfect excuse to get away with, this is what's happening with Gypsy, when it really wasn't, you know what I mean? It was a perfect example to just say they were lost in a storm. She got away with a lot of that. She fooled a lot of doctors, by saying that these medical records were just, missing. Even the Springfield community members welcomed in the pair. Dee was often featured on local television and received large donations from the national charities. Among the gifts of the family was a pink and white house that they lived in, which, yes, this house was given to them. I think it's called by the, Human Something Society. That's probably not correct. But that house was given to them. They were given a lot of things that really, they didn't need. It wasn't deserved. And none of these illnesses were real. Dee falsely claimed Gypsy Rose had the mental age of a 7-year-old, which is complete bull. Dee told local charities and doctors that her daughter had the mental age of a 7-year-old, which was completely untrue. She said that Gypsy Rose was a teenager. However, Gypsy was actually in her 20s. When she was going around saying that she was 12, 13, 14, 15, Gypsy was a good 19, 18, 19, 20 years old. She was well in her 20s. Gypsy Rose talks in Plenty of Time, comes out many times and says that killing her mother was her last option, and that I think specifically she had a plan A, B, C. It was A, B, and C. I'm not sure what exactly the plans were, but I knew the first one was to run away, which didn't work. She got caught. Dee threatened her, told her, she needed to come home, and she did. So, and then slowly, she is starting to realize that, this is complete bull. This is all lies. You know what I mean? None of this stuff is real that her mother is saying that she has, And due to Dee's actions, Gypsy was prescribed a bunch of medications that had using a sleep breathing machine. She went through multiple surgeries, including procedures on her eyes and removal of her salivary glands. When Gypsy's teeth rotted, because of these medications that she was taking that she didn't need, I can't say that right, but her glands, were neglected and they were eventually pulled out. So, I'm saying, these are all forms of abuse. This is not, 100% Gypsy Rose was a victim of Munchausen by proxy. And, like I said, it started at a very, very young age. So, like I said, I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but, that's the point. If you know the story, you're kind of following along. So like I said, killing her mother was her last and final option. She did not want to do this, but, that's what it came down to, unfortunately. She slowly started meeting people online, and that's where she met Nick Godejohn. So Nick Godejohn was the one who actually stabbed Gypsy's mother. Gypsy Rose asked her to stab her, but Nick was the one who went along with it. In June 2015, Dee Dee was found dead in her bed with stab wounds. Gypsy Rose and her boyfriend Nick Godejohn, who seemingly met mostly over online, they were both charged with first-degree murder. Nick Godejohn had taken a bus from his home in the state of Wisconsin to help Gypsy Rose after she revealed to him that her medical conditions were all a lie and she needed to escape her mother. In the hours of Dee Dee's death, Gypsy Rose celebrated her newfound freedom with Nick Godejohn, then 26, at a local motel in Springfield, where they ate brownies and stayed together overnight, and they were later arrested in Wisconsin. So there's actually video proof of this, of Gypsy and Nick Godejohn on a bed. They're talking, they're being very kind of, like sexual with each other. They're just, pretty much they're talking, have a great time, like probably only 2 or 3 hours after Nick Godejohn stabbed her mother. And Gypsy Rose did come out and say that she was on a lot of medication when that was happening, and she was, under a lot of like influence and stuff. And I think that's why people have like such a hard time with this sometimes, is because of things like that. Because when they see video evidence of, Gypsy Rose having this magnificent time with Nick Godejohn after they just stabbed her mother, like, it's hard to believe that, like, it's hard to say, well, oh, she's not, she didn't do anything wrong. Because at the end, she still did stab her mother, like, well, she didn't, but you know what I mean? Like, she was still a part of first-degree murder. She still asked Nick Godejohn to do it. All of that stuff. And, in July 2016, Gypsy Rose pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, and she is currently serving 10 years in a prison sentence. I think that Gypsy's supposed to be released sometime soon. I want to say 2026, but I'm not completely positive. In February, Nick Godejohn was sentenced to life in prison for the first-degree murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. He argued in court that he killed Dee Dee to free Gypsy Rose, which... like I said, Gypsy Rose asked Nick to do this. That's where it kind of gets into a bit more of like a tricky situation with all of this. And now as Gypsy Rose serves her sentence, her family says that they will be there for her when she is released. She will always have a home here. Rob Blanchard previously told people will put her on the right path. So, it's like I said, it's a horrible situation, going back to Dee Dee Blanchard, it was so hard because Dee Dee appeared to be a charming and devoted mother, and so many people believed her. Like, I just cannot believe that she got away with, fooling the doctors, fooling, neighbors, fooling everybody. Like, Dee Dee Blanchard fooled everyone into thinking that all these things were wrong with Gypsy. And, medical tests often showed inconclusive or, inconclusive results regarding Gypsy Rose's diagnosis, but Dee Dee would stop seeing any doctor who questioned her daughter's, illnesses, and many caregivers went along with what Dee Dee wanted. She'd had some nurses training so she could accurately describe symptoms, and she sometimes gave Gypsy medications to mimic certain conditions. So when we jump back a little bit to the medicine cabinet and stuff, and especially like when Gypsy got her teeth pulled, like I said, we've already known this. Gypsy did not have any of these illnesses, but a lot of the medication that she was taking, induced these symptoms, like made her sick. You know what I mean? So like she, saying that she had like muscle dystrophy and stuff like that. She did not have muscle dystrophy. I think doctors specifically said that like her muscle mass was like completely fine, something like that. But like I said, like these medications like gave Gypsy like all like the other things that were wrong with her. You know what I mean? Like having to get her teeth pulled and like things removed and stuff, like having a feeding tube, like all of that stuff was like strictly just stuff that her mother did to her. Like, Dee Dee was also charming and seemed so devoted to Gypsy, which was why it was so hard for people to believe that all of this was just lies. And when Gypsy was old enough to talk, Dee Dee instructed her to not volunteer information during their appointments. She was always the one regulating Gypsy's fake medical history. And, this goes back to when she said that, she'd always have the mind of a 7-year-old, which, like I said, it's all lies. All of it is lies. That's lies. Like, she always shut Gypsy up. Like, Gypsy was never allowed to talk. She was never allowed to say anything. Like, Gypsy, not Gypsy, Dee Dee, like, you know what I mean? Like, just gave her such this bad rap and, like, you know, saying that all of these things were wrong when none of them were wrong. Like, and, you know, and like I said, like, it's just you know, Gypsy did so much stuff, like, you know, like she went through so much stuff. And, like, she says specifically in an interview, too, she says, I wish that everybody would have noticed before it gotten to this point. And I think that she also states that she does regret killing her mother and that this was her last option and this was not something that she actually wanted to do. And, you know, like I said, like, it's horrible. Like, and to think that, like, this stuff actually happened. Like, if you go on, you know, like, Dee Dee's Facebook page, like, that post is still there that Gypsy Rose and Nick Godejohn made. You know, I can't quote it because, you know, it swears in it. But, you know, she later explains that she made the post because she wanted her mother's body to be discovered. And she does come out and say, like, you know, during all those times after her mother's death, that she did start to feel guilt and she did start to feel bad. And, like, she did want her mother's body to be found. And that's why she had made that post, even if it wasn't, you know, even if it was a mean post. She wanted her mother's body to be found, but she also didn't want to expose that her and Nick Godejohn were the ones that had something to do with it. And, you know, Gypsy was afraid and believed that she didn't have anyone to trust. And after Dee Dee's murder, many people who'd known Gypsy wondered why she had gone so far to kill Dee Dee. And since she could walk, she simply could have exposed Dee Dee's lies by standing up in public. Yet Gypsy had been conditioned to think that no one would believe her. She explained, I couldn't just jump out of my wheelchair because I was afraid and I didn't know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust. Which, like I said, you know, going back into this, like I said, like, Dee Dee Blanchard fooled a lot of people, and, like, she got away with fooling all of these people, you know. And I think Gypsy really thought that she had no other option, and she thought that, you know, if she just stood up, like, she would make everyone mad at her, like, which all, you know, that's a good reason to be angry, you know what I mean? Like, they've been lied to, you know. People have donated houses, they've donated money, they donated equipment. Like, people have done so much for her, and for her to just stand up and, like, come out here and say, oh, well, you know, there is nothing wrong with me, it makes Gypsy look bad, you know what I mean? And even though she was a victim of Munchausen by proxy, a lot of people would not have believed that, you know what I mean? They would have just, like, they would have believed that Gypsy, you know, lied about all of these things, but the whole time it was Dee Dee. She was under influence of her mother, you know, like, she really thought that, you know, she really thought that there was no other option for her, which is really upsetting, you know. And, you know, like I said, Gypsy comes out and says several times that she is not happy that her mother is dead. As Gypsy's medical records documented the abuse that she'd been subjected to, her lawyer was able to arrange a plea deal for the charges she faced in Dee Dee's death. In 2016, Gypsy pled guilty to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and she'll be eligible for parole in the beginning of 2024. So, yes, 2024. And Nick Godejohn was found guilty of first-degree murder in 2018 and was sentenced to life. Like I said, Gypsy had stated it was only after Dee Dee's death that she realized the extent of her mother's deception. When Gypsy had known she could walk and eat regular food, she had believed she had leukemia. So, you know, today Gypsy's healthy. She also enjoys more freedom in prison than she did with the life that she shared with Dee Dee. However, when asked by Dr. Phil that if she was glad that her mother was dead, she stated, I'm glad that I'm out of that situation, but I'm not happy that she's dead. You know, she is eligible for parole in 2024. So you can tell that, like, you know, Gypsy does feel guilty. And like I said, that this really was her only option, you know, what she thought was her only option. Like, there obviously were other, you know, there was things that she could have done, but everyone failed her. Like, you know, like CPS even failed Gypsy. You know what I mean? Like, Dee Dee really got away with all of these things, you know? Like, she did ask for help. She did call out for help, but she really thought that there was not much else she could do. And that's why she relied so heavily on Nick Godejohn. You know what I mean? And I think that, like I said, I think that she just really thought that this was the last thing that, you know, she could do. And it's really sad that she said that she, you know, has more freedom in prison than she did when she shared life with Dee Dee. Like, that's so unfair. That's so cruel and unfair that she feels like she's having a better life in prison. I think her father even says, I think her stepmother and father says something about dumping Dee Dee Blanchard's ashes in the toilet. Like, people, like I said, there's just so much into it. Like, there's so much even with Dee Dee Blanchard's mother, like, and how apparently Dee Dee Blanchard, you know, neglected her mother when she was sick. And it's just, like, it's such a tough and intricate situation. Like, there's no way to really know, you know, what went on inside of Dee Dee's head and what went inside of Gypsy's head. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I said, it's so upsetting. It's so upsetting that she feels more freedom in prison. Like, it's upsetting that it really had to get to this point. It's upsetting that people failed her. It's upsetting that she was lied to. You know, it's upsetting that she had to grow up like this, and the abuse had to go on for this long, because it's just not fair. Like, it really isn't. But I think there are good documentaries to watch. There's a good documentary on YouTube to watch. I think it's called Mommy Daughter Dead Dearest. It's something like that. I don't think that that's the exact name of it, but if you look that up, it'll come up. Like, and that's a good way that you guys can hear the story for yourself. There also is a Hulu movie called The Act, which is pretty good, but obviously it's not Gypsy Rose acting in it. I liked the other one and better the YouTube documentary, because it's coming from Gypsy herself, and it's coming from, you can really just, she cries, she really lets all of these emotions out. Like, it really does show that she was a victim, you know what I mean? Like that she was a victim of this, a victim of abuse and a victim of neglect. And, it's horrible that she has to, live out like this, but I'm glad that, her father is there for her. And like they said, that they're ready for her to get out. They're going to help her on the right path once once she's out of prison. So she does have she does have a good life, set up for her after this. She knows what she did was wrong, you know what I mean? Like, and, I'm happy that she'll be able to come out, and I hope that she has a good life after this. And, like I said, it just sucks that it really had to come to this, but, unfortunately it did. And it's definitely it is an interesting thing to learn about, especially because there's so much in this case that we don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it's just horrible, you know what I mean? Like, the whole situation is terrible. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but like I said, I know that this podcast was kind of all over the place, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll have some more podcasts coming out soon. Maybe I can get more into this. I can get more into crime-related stuff, because this is really the stuff that I like. But this is my first one, so, I'm open to learning learning better, organizing my podcast better, all of that fun stuff. But, like I said, watch The Act on Hulu. You can watch that YouTube documentary. This is a very interesting case. It's very sad, too. But like I said, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and have an awesome day.